This is Musically Speaking. Today we're talking about managers. Those are individuals who make sure that things happen for the artist. They are the ones who ensure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. They make sure that the artists are paid. They make sure that the bands play when they're supposed to. They make sure that the accommodation for the artist is of a certain standard. They make sure that everything about the artist's career runs properly. And today, I have a man who is distinguished in that field. In fact, we have worked together for considerable periods and have done some remarkable things together in the music, talking about none other than Patrick Roberts of the famed Shocking Vibes outfit. And that Shocking Vibes outfit has handled the careers of artists as varied as Beanie Man and Lady Saw, Silver Cat, Admiral Bailey, there's some, Little Kirk, Tonto Metro and Devante, Silver Cat, RDX, Jamil, and you could go on and on and on, They have been Nesbeth, Bling Dog, and, so many names we could bring up here today, but as we go along, we'll talk about some of the challenges which this particular venture management brings and some of the great opportunities that present themselves to people who call themselves manager. So I'll be talking with my brother, Patrick Roberts, and later on we should be joined by another legendary manager, Robert Livingston, and we'll talk to both of them about the business of management. Interestingly, both Patrick and Robert are not only managers, they have actually been involved in music production and they own record labels, something that Gussie Clarke definitely scoffs at. He says he doesn't want to be responsible for raising any more children than his own, and therefore he's not involved in the business of managing artists. He just produces music. Well, as I said, people like Patrick and people like Robert, they produce and they manage. And here's one of the songs, the early songs on the Shocking Vibes label. This one is from Tiger, a production from the great Tony Kelly for Shocking Vibes. You're dead now. Tiger, you're dead now. This one really established Shocking Vibes as a viable entity. Of course, there was the gun in that piece of ladies' item, and that started Shocking Vibes. But you're dead now. This really established the label. But Tiger was not managed by Shocking Vibes. He was just produced by the label. But there were other artists such as Beanie Man, who perhaps is the most prominent member of the Shocking Vibes outfit. Now, by way of disclosure, Patrick and I were responsible as executive producers for Beanie Man's Grammy Award-winning album, Art and Life, and Patrick Moxie, of course. We can't forget him. The three of us are the executive producers of the Grammy Award-winning album for Beanie. But we managed his career as best as we could. And I just want to, as the man who really identified artists like Beenie Man, and brought him into the stable. Um, Give me your reflections now that you look back, Patrick, about your foray into the business of management. Do you have any regrets?
First and foremost, I must say good afternoon to your listeners, and it is good to have me at Bridge. And I know I'm supposed to be also broadcasting far beyond Jamaica shores.
Yes, you are.
So it's supposed to be also in the tri-states.
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely the question that you asked, there's no regrets. And if you ask me the question if I would do it over again, yes, but probably a little tweaking. But definitely I would definitely do it all over again.
No,
so there's no regrets.
So you have no regrets?
None.
No, Shocking Vibes is a highly rated, iconic label. Tell me what were or are the secrets of the success of Shocking Vibes? What really made it so outstanding as a label and as a management company? I mean, I want to concentrate more on the management side of it, but just as a label too, what really made it?
I think one of the things was openness and transparency, basically. And
when you say openness and transparency, what do you mean?
basically, it was where everybody feel a part of the company. Everybody feel a part of decision making. It was never a situation where it's a dictatorship where one just said do this and that. No, it was basically a situation where all of us, and even at the start of making the name, we should have even go this first. At the name,
yes,
Shocking Vibes was coined between myself, Beenie Man, Liquor Kirk, and Tanto Metro. All of us was in Puyat Street where the label started.
That's where the label started.
6 Puyat Street in Johnstown,
and
Craigtown.
that's where it came to my attention through my sister Cherie.
Right.
Because she was the one who was upfront with Shocking Vibes, and she was the one who was telling me about all that was happening at the time. Because so, I was by then a country boy.
Right, you're in Ochi. So at that time we said Beenie Man, Liquor Kirk, Tanto all was with me. So basically we sit back and I usually carry especially Liquor Kirk to other producers.
Yeah, but let's backtrack. Let's backtrack, Patrick, because you were learning electronics
at Stax Electronics.
And Stax was a sound system.
So that's where we meet Liquor Kirk and Beenie Man in Waterhouse, because at Stax
at a dance
in Balcom Drive in Waterhouse. Mm-hmm. And I saw Kirk and Beenie Man there, and they were performing.
They both were saying they were brothers at the time.
So I invited them to come by
Stax?
Stax, where our establishment were at.
Right in Tarrant.
Right at Tarrant Bridge, basically.
Yeah.
The upstairs building there. So I gave them a bus here and say, find on a way and then let us talk. So Beenie Man was more, mature one, and me have my manager, say, I forgot to talk to him. So I say, little boy, stop your foolishness about big manager. But at that time,
how old was Beenie Man?
Beenie Man was at around, at that time, I think Beenie Man was 10, 11, and Liquor Kirk was 13. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't far from that age neither, because at that time that I was around 15, 16, so it's like three youths, sit back, and a bigger one lead the way, so basically. So after they both came, that I had an other little youth named Fabian. Mm-hmm. Fabian was from Arnett Gardens, yes. Right, and he usually DJ too. But Fabian never that serious in music.
He was very talented,
but very talented, And I got to know Tanto after basically. I think Fabian brought Tanto Metro to us. So as those days,
But they came to you. They came to you as artists to be produced.
Just artists to produce. Want to
So
to
you never
bust
had
in the music business.
because you
never
had no understanding or intention
of
about
management at that
Right.
time. So basically, as I said, I was trying to get them established by bringing them to other producers, you know. And I remember carrying Liquor Kirk to Jammins, King Jammins, because at that time Jammins usually, and the fact that Kirk and Beaneman came from Waterhouse, Liquor Kirk came from the same road that Jack Scarpio started out on, Edley Avenue, and I think Jack in the middle of Edley Avenue, while Liquor Kirk at the other end to the boulevard. And then Beaneman was round Unity Lane, that in the heart of Waterhouse. So basically, and what's his name? Fabian. Liquor Fabian was from Arnett, not far from where Shocking Vibes started. And Tanto was from Almantown. So all of them group up, and we said, why we are going to find producers? And them I say, why you not produce we? See, you know what I say, first we have to think about our name, of a label, you know, and all type of name fling. I say, no man, we want something we are shock, you know, and I think Beanie Man say shocking. I'm gonna say, yeah, something where have full type of something and vibes, and you know, and we come up with the name Shocking Vibes. And there Beanie Man say, and Tanto say, yeah, Shocking Vibes. Then Liquor Kirk had this song, was a school song, you know, and we said, okay, we're gonna get together and start produce. You know,
so all of this time,
no management, never.
So they were just
no management,
agents,
just free agents,
just doing their thing.
And you know, Beanie Man was all over. Cause sometimes you see Beanie Man today don't seem till all 3 weeks, 1 month time. You know, so
and your mother, Mama Sita, was playing an integral role in accommodating them and feeding them and
right, so
all of that kind of thing. And
yes, because you know these youths come and she said, okay, sometime Kirk, it's a time for them to get your bus to go back to Waterhouse, and she would have say, leave them alone, suppose them want to stay. You know, and that is where Kirk and Beanie Man did really want to hear. Yeah, so
it was Puyat Street where it all started.
In Craigtown.
And then you made the move up to Slipe Road.
Then basically when we started producing.
Well, yes, you had an interim because you had situations before you actually reached Slipe Road. So
basically, because at the same time I was still with Stacks,
yes,
electronics, and doing my apprenticeship,
yes,
there, and I'm learning to fix speakers, because I usually fascinated by fixing speakers. So when speakers burn or sound system get knocked out, the speakers would be my duty to recoil.
But it's interesting. You are one of the top producers who didn't own a sound system, but actually you were associated
with a sound system.
That's important, because we know how critical the sound system is to the whole development of modern Jamaican music. And most of the great producers, they have sound systems. In point of fact, they will tell you they started with their sound systems and then they move into production.
Yes, and not that alone. Most of the entertainers with great,
but you
came from the sound system too.
Yes, but you say, I mean, that you don't have any regrets, but the whole question of marrying production and management. I mean, I refer to what Gussie said last week. Do you think, looking back, that it might have been easier had you concentrated just on management rather than on management and production?
Not really, because the two comes hands in hand, but most persons, and as I said, Gossi alluded that he wouldn't touch that, but I had the time for it, you know, and eventually when the artists start to say to you, I want you to responsible for my career, then at the same time you would want to just saying that you want to just exploit their talents alone by just producing them and not caring for their career in terms of management.
But management,
and management it becomes like natural to me after, you know, because, you know, probably with the upgrowing of being in youth clubs, and I was just basically a leader coming through the youth clubs and all of those things, because that is where we started even the Cracktown Youth Organization.
Yeah, but management can be a very challenging task because you have to be dealing with the idiosyncrasies of various artists, and especially when you have a stable that is as big as Shocking Vibes. That can be a really delicate balancing act. Tell me about that.
And I earlier stated, basically, is that when you dealing with management and there's no egos or insecurities, then your work is much easier, because there and then you identify persons who you can put to the task. So that is what I usually do, ensure that I have a grouping of personnel, because even Kevin, when Kevin just left school.
That's Kevin, you're talking, my brother,
your sibling, Ralston.
Yeah, my younger brother,
right.
Ralston.
Him and Paul, after they left school and they were around me, and we doing all the management thing and giving them assignments.
Well, Kevin was into road management, while Paul kind
was
of
more the production and the management side.
Production. I mean, he was in admin too, but he wasn't going as much on the road.
No, because basically the flag bearer was Moses, being a man, and Kevin was the one that signed to being a man. And then afterwards, Paul would be the one that more centralized around production, until we start to branch in more artists, where Bling Dog came forward, and then Paul was assigned to Bling Dog as a road manager, right?
And then he did some road management also
with
for
Tanto and
Devante. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the egos and how you manage that, because you said that you were able to select people and partner with people who you thought didn't carry the kind of baggage by way of ego, and so you were able to get things done. Give me some examples of how you would manage some of, because I imagine that the artist, I mean, Moses himself was a challenging kind of artist to deal with. You know, he was very
full
controversial,
of youthful, exuberant.
Yeah, controversial. And I know that we had to intervene frequently to extricate him from some of his challenges. You want to, I mean, without going into too many details, you want to talk a little bit about that. What was that like?
Very challenging managing an artist like Beenie Man. But the good thing about the fact that he was someone who respected management and decisions. So when you make a decision, then that would stick. But outside of his youthful exuberance and his going out there and find himself in a lot of feud and other problem. We manage it based upon even with the long-standing feud between him and Bunty Killer. It was a situation where Bunty had a respect for myself, and we have never let that played a part of trying to interfere with the respect of the other artists, and that becomes the norms, that the respect that we as a label put out there kind of really
So you
propel.
you want to say perhaps that in many instances you had to work some back channels
And the respect that we
in terms of dealing with just putting out some of the flames that would
ignite by
Beanie's
Beanie.
presence sometimes.
Definitely.
And so part of the thing was your human and public relations, how you were able to reach out to the various constituencies and manage that kind of situation, because from time to time, you'd have what would be considered intemperate outbursts and things like that, and you would have to be on top of that. There are other challenges apart from the personality issues when you're talking about managing an artist, and especially somebody of the caliber of Beanie and Tonto Metro and Devante, for example. Both of them were actually signed to major labels. I mean, Beanie was signed to Virgin and Tonto was signed to Sony. At one time. I want you to talk to me about the whole question of handling this kind of situation, because there is a demand on the artists in such situations for promotional time, which often conflicts with the time
and the earning power
of the artists from their shows. That's a big challenge, which I know we had to manage very, very delicately at Shocking Vibes, because you have the label on one side, they want him to be here, there, and everywhere, and they want these artists to be present because they want to sell records, and we, at the same time, we have booked these artists for paid gigs, and we want to ensure that these artists honor those commitments. How did it work?
And as I say that, we remember vividly that when Virgin approached us for the interest through Patrick Moxie for signing of Beanie Man, I remember I sit with you and say, Clyde, look here. The fact that Virgin want Beanie Man, is what Beanie Man is doing. They would have want to sign Beanie Man. And I think I
should interject though, because what had happened is that Virgin had actually done a due diligence to assess his management.
Right, I was coming there. Okay. I was going there because even as you make mention of that, one of the things that Virgin did state clear is that they didn't sign Beanie Man himself, but they signed Beanie Man because of the management structure that surrounded him.
Yeah.
And that started based upon the negotiation with Virgins and what we would ask Virgin for. Because one of the things that we said to Virgin is that most artists that sign, after they sign, their popularity wanes down because of they don't have that
let's
capabilities.
Just hold a second, Patrick, and let's just take a break and come right back. I call him Kokomo, but his name is Moses Anthony Davis, and he's popularly known as Beanie Man. And Patrick Roberts is the man. The legendary Patrick Roberts is the man who really brought Beanie to the forefront of the music business. You were talking about
Virgin.
the Virgin, yes, and what that meant, yeah.
Right, and as I was saying, basically, outside of Virgin signing Moses based upon management structure, one of the things I vividly remember when I said to you, Clyde, ensure that one of the class that's in the contract is that it still give Beenie Man the power to record as frequent as possible, because I don't want to take that from him, because that is what made Beenie Man. And the only thing we would do is say to the promoters or the producers that Virgin will have to get the first right of refusal for any track.
All right, let me clarify this. What happened is that in many instances, top artists who were signed to major labels were restricted from
recording
and releasing songs in the Jamaican market. And that created a problem, particularly for dancehall artists, because the release cycle of these major labels, they tend to be very long 2 years sometimes before an album is put out. And the fact is that in the dancehall, you have to be very current. So things have to be happening in the here and now. And in the case of Beenie Man, we thought that it was important that he be able to participate in the local market in a way to remain relevant. So that's a very, because we were seeing that there were artists who had challenges because they were tied up, locked up, and basically imprisoned by the record labels, and they couldn't really do what they needed to do. And so we learned quickly from that situation. Interestingly, I can remember that Jay Quattrini, when I put that position to him, and I said, I think we're going to want that the Caribbean space be carved out for us, because we needed some kind of autonomy in this area. Jay told me that it wasn't going to work, because that's not how
these labels operate.
Mind you, record companies have done that kind of thing before, where they gave labels the opportunity to distribute stuff in the Caribbean that they produced, but it ended up badly. And so I think he was right in that the labels would not have been disposed to that kind of thing. But we managed to get around that, and I think it worked in some respects for us.
Definitely.
There were more challenges, though.
Yeah, because we signed Moses around 98, and to show Virgin never released the first songs until 2000.
Yes.
So the same time period would have been 2 years.
Yeah, he would have been like 2 years in prison.
Not hearing a Beenie Man on the road.
Yes.
Basically.
And I mean, he was like producing a song like every week.
Every week.
And and that is one of the challenges artists face when signed to some of these international labels.
Right.
Because to reconcile what we call the imperatives of being relevant with sticking to the recording and release schedule of the label is a big problem. Now, the relationship with Virgin, for example, I mean, that was a delicate one and required deft skills.
Definitely.
In terms of...
And you were the one that mostly interfaced with Virgin, basically, while you deal with the international aspect of the company, I deal with the local aspect.
No, well, we had a division of labor, so the record label really interfaced with me, and at some point I got a little bit flustered by it, because I thought that the guys overseas were blaming me for anything that that they didn't agree with. because they just thought that they were only seeing me, and I was making the decisions, and so I was the villain of the pack. And I said to you, no, Patrick, we're gonna have to go. I'm gonna schedule a meeting with Jermaine Dupri and these other guys, and we're going. At that time, Virgin had now reached New York, because what we should tell people is that when you're doing an album with a label like Virgin, there is a lot of demand on the management's time. Yes. I remember I would travel every other week to California, to Santa Monica,
right,
to deal with Virgin. The various, I mean, when you're putting out an album, it is like planning for a war.
Yes.
You have to be like a general.
Yes.
And I mean, because people don't understand the elements that you have to deal with in a record label. You have 200 or 300 people that you have to deal with in there. The people who deal with crossover radio, the people who buy tickets for the shows, because the label will give you tour support by buying tickets for your shows. Mm-hmm. and things like that. And all of those things have to be properly managed, and if they're not synchronized, then we're in trouble.
Definitely.
And I think we managed to skillfully deal
navigate right through.
You know, I mean, there were some hairy moments I can think of. I remember.
I think it was.
You know what? You know the
Spectrum.
The situation we had with Janet Jackson.
So, right. Yeah.
And I remember I was down in California with Moses. We're staying at the Mondrian, and Patrick Moxie and I went down for breakfast. We were going to Malibu to shoot the Janet Jackson video.
Because she first refused to do it in Jamaica.
Right, because one of my thing was, we were saying, look, we want her because the money, it was $1 million US dollar.
Video production.
So we're saying we want this $1 million spent in Jamaica. And the record label thought otherwise. And I remember going down there to California, and I remember I said Patrick Moxie and I were having breakfast at Montreal, and I said, Patrick, did we have all the samples cleared? And he said, samples, Clyde? I said, yeah, I mean, did we get all the samples cleared? He said, I'm not aware we should have samples cleared. I said, no, I mean, there are a couple of songs that were used and samples that were used in the production. And I mean, when you talk about samples, it was like you had you go to the supermarket and they're giving out the samples. there were that many, and that was a situation. I mean, because Moxie blanched. I saw. I mean, the blood just leave his face, because he was in trouble. Right. And I mean, you were shooting $1 million and the clearances were not there. Those were hairy moments, but we always managed to get through them.
Definite.
Tell me though, yeah. So we have those situations. You said we had a proper division of labor, in that I was dealing with the international stuff, and you were dealing with the local stuff, which sometimes resulted in friction between us,
because local becomes international becomes local.
Because I mean, here it was that we were looking at the demands for the record label, and I was always seeming to be defending the interests of the record label, and the other people trying to make sure that
the shows
are done. You know, that the bookings are met.
kept right.
So that I think was a challenge.
Right, and I remember vividly one challenge when Moses was in Europe, and he had to do Spectrum in Kingston, and they were saying to us, no way Moses could leave off the tour in Europe to be in Jamaica, and they were saying their travel agent couldn't route Beenie Man no time at all to get to Jamaica and get back into Europe for that their continued jig, and we stay right in Jamaica, route Beenie Man to come to Spectrum and get him back up.
Yeah, we took those kinds of risk, and I think part of that sometimes resulted in additional cost to us, but it was a matter of maintaining your reputation and also ensuring that you honored your commitments.
Right.
And that is very important, because sometimes confusion reigns, because we talk about promotion, and promotion is something that often carries no money for the artist. So when the record label says, we want you on the road for two months, 3 months, there is no money, except maybe they'll pay the personnel, the band members, and
sometimes they don't want the band member.
Sometimes they just want tracks,
because
right?
It's just a promotion of the set recordings that they are promoting.
So you have those things where you would have those conflicts where sometimes the artist wants to make sure he makes some money, and the Hot 97 might have a show, and that has big implications for the career and the sale of the record, and then you still want to eat a food and keep the pot boiling. Now, tell me sometimes how you manage to deal with that, because it required very, very delicate scheduling at times. Sometimes it required incurring additional costs. Sometimes it meant, for example, chartering a plane for the artist. Talk about that.
Yeah, basically, the good thing about it that at times Virgin would be kind of like a flexible based upon the fact that upon signing, they sign based upon the management structure, and they know that we want the best for the artists, and times come when we have to call a spade and say to Virgin, say, look here, okay, if we have the right scheduling, and sometimes they come with some impromptu request.
There's a lot of that.
A lot of impromptu requests, and we have to say no at times. It's going to interfere with these jigs. And one of the things that made Shocking Vibes a reputable management structure was a 100% we call it attendance of shows. Basically, we never had no shows, cancellations,
yes,
and those things, So that was basically one of our hallmark going into.
You spoke about Kevin, my youngest brother, Ralston, and his association with Beenie Man. You and I, we didn't go on the road very much, at least. I mean, I would go on the road to deal with the record labels, but I wouldn't go on the road. We wouldn't go on the road for shows.
Not necessarily.
Very rarely. Because that
depends on the event.
Yeah, but that was dealt with largely by Ralston. Tell us a little bit about that. What it meant, because there were many managers who were on the road with their artist, and to ensure that things were going well. But you didn't have that. We didn't have that. We had
basically how we structured the organization and the management. Basically, at Shocking Vibes, we had our personal assistant who would receive the calls, get the show, book, and then we book the shows, and then Kevin would be the person who responsible to interface with the promoter overseas or sometimes locally also, basically. And it was just a structured where from the hotel, everything was done basically from Jamaica with the whole
it was a very tight run with Jody
Powell doing
she was good, and
Ralston would have been just the person now to ensure
he was on top of his game in terms of making sure that the passports and the visas and all of those things, that the hotels are right, and the trickiest part, that the balance is paid.
Basically, and that is what Ralston or Kevin usually be very, very strict on. I remember one time Kevin went and did a show with a promoter, and then I think the promoter had a show with Lady Saw, and then the promoter have a show with Tanto and Devante, and it was 3 different road managers him interface with, and him called me one day and said, "Come here, I want to ask you one question. Shocking Vibes have some form of chip, and when you send them road manager on the road, you chip them, because all 3 road managers dealt with the business similarly."
Yeah, in the same way.
In the same way, you know, but it's just the whole thing, and I again, as I said, it's just a trust, because when you sending your artists on the road with a road manager, it means also that the manager himself has nothing to hide. So whatever is being finalized or being charged with the artist, then the road manager.
Yes, so you're saying it's open.
When you have open policy, basically, because you see, it can be dangerous when you want to be everywhere at the same time. So it can be because if you as a management, and at those times we never had social media, those times we never had phone system, basically.
You mean
so long line was the order of the day.
Yes.
We never usually have cell phone in Jamaica frequently. So if at that time, if you were to be on the road with your artists, then
you're gonna lose,
all the production and all the booking part goes without a phone.
Right, and because you were actually doing booking at the same time. So although you might have a booking agent, that would do tours like Peter Schwartz.
Agencies.
The agency group, Peter Schwartz, yes.
Mm-hmm.
They would do, but in the main, people would book through Shocking Vibes.
Definitely. Right. Primarily, you enter bookings through Shocking Vibes.
I think it's important, though, to commend Beenie Man, for his understanding in particular, about the nuances of some of these promotional gigs, because a lot of artists were reluctant to do these things, and he would do them without a murmur.
No, and that is what I said basically. Then and now is 2 different things, because I remember one day we landed in New York, myself and Beenie Man, and as you said, you would have Robert on later. I remember vividly we were at the baggage area waiting on our luggage, and as Robert went in his pocket, turned on his phone, there comes a phone call from the record label. Oh, Robert, I overheard Robert saying, we just landing now. I want them to say, yes, we were timing you. So basically, I think Shaggy was coming from Japan, and they want Shaggy now immediately a flight as him land in New York, can't go home. He must go round to the check-in counter
and move again.
And move again to China. So I turned to Moses and said to Moses, you see it? These are the things that make artists. Shaggy never murmur. him just take up him luggage and just said to Robert, me will see you here. and these are things, and I said to enough of these artists. I remember Beenie Man coming off a 1 month tour with Virgin, and it could even have $500 in his pocket, based upon just come from a promotional tour. So you have to do the work for you to sustain your career. And when one asks a question, how Beenie Man can sustain his career for over 30 years and still relevant, it's
management.
Management.
And the fact that
he himself was acceptable.
Well, I mean, he's an incredible talent. And he had his own little challenges, but he's an unbelievable talent. Musically speaking, this is talking about management. Clyde Mckenzie here, talking with Shocking Vibes, iconic CEO Patrick Roberts, and we have Kevin Williams here. We have Danila Doyle. You had my 9/10 Maxine, she's here too. It's an interesting one, just going through all, and there's Neon too, right? So we're going through this whole thing about management. Is Robert there yet? No. So this is so we're talking about management here today, and we're going to take a break and come right back. The unmistakable sound of Arturo Sandoval, Cuban trumpeter extraordinaire, the tumble. Oh, incidentally, I wrote that one for Beenie Man, yes. And there's a great story when we went to Florida to record. Well, to add to the stuff, because remember, we first recorded it at Grove Studio. That's where the first portion of the recording took place. And you had people like the great Ernest Ranglin. There was Desi Jones was on it. I think Barry O'Hare was the engineer. You had Mikey Fletcher, you had Robbie Lynn, and all of these people. And then we had a situation where we said, well, we got to take this now to some real Latino, some Cuban, and Alman and those people to get that swing piano. And we went to the Inner Circle Studio.
Inner Circle Studio in Florida.
In Florida. And we had quite an incident there where I got arrested.
Temporarily, call it.
Temporarily at the airport for making
a comment.
Making a comment. The guy said I made a bomb threat or something. I think had it been today, I maybe would have gone to jail. But we managed, because you remember I was bangled and all of that.
Right,
The guy was really, really upset that I had actually been sarcastic to him. So these are some of the perils of the road. You go out there and you never know. I mean, because we were just there flying in. I mean, my brother said to me, Ralston said to me, he said, Mackie, why so much fire trucks and police vehicles on the runway? I said, it seems as if a plane has called with a distress signal, and they are taking the necessary precaution. I didn't know it was our plane. That they said, well, there was a bomb on the plane, and there we were. And I mean, I almost went to jail for that. But those are the perils of the road, and I think many times I don't think artists appreciate some of the difficulties that management face when they are in charge of their careers. Yeah. I remember I used to wake up at 4 a.m. and I would start working at 4, and I would not leave the office until 8 at night. And there was a simple reason for that. London, started.
frame.
London started at 9 o'clock, which was 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, on our time.
5 hour difference.
The 5 hour difference. But the other problem was that Virgin was on the West Coast.
With that 2 hour difference.
With a 3 hour difference.
Right.
So I mean, when they're using the regular time, and I would have to work from that time. I mean, because you'd have situation with Guy Moot and those people from England, publishers, and you would have to deal with those people. And then at the end of the day, you have to be dealing with the people at Virgin.
Right.
And so it is from 4 to 8 at night. And people don't understand that, because a lot of, and what I wanted,
The end products. Most people just look at the end products.
No, and what I would want people to understand is that not only are we doing the administrative stuff, there is also the personal stuff that is being done. Getting people out of trouble,
Yes.
sometimes going to bail a man at 3 o'clock in the morning, or you remember the situation when Moses crashed the Hummer?
Right. And in that period of time when he crashed the Hummer, it was basically after a video shoot, and then trying to reach at a event in Clarendon and driving by himself.
Yeah, but most importantly, we had a schedule to meet with Virgin.
At the same time.
And we didn't, he was supposed to have gone to do recordings. And as long as it
collapsed, right?
So he couldn't do any kind of work. And so we had to basically run around and collect songs to put on the album.
It was that period of time, and it was very, 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 very ethic.
All right.
And one of the other things that we looked at is the structured on the road structure that we had surround Moses, basically, because not only had Ralston dealing with his interface with management and ensure that interviews and all of these things are taking place, but we had a chef.
We have
a chef who ensured that he got his proper meal. We have Dexter who ensured that
my other brother
make sure that him garments and all of these stuffs are and he's well attired for performance purposes. So
you're saying that good management really ensure
that the artist only think
about except performance.
Basically.
Moses would find himself doing other things apart from performance, but that was
his. But right. We ensure as a management.
In terms of his job, everything was worked out. What clothes he was going to wear, what food he was going to eat, when he was going, what time the car would come
pick up,
and all of that. And we should tell people that you have challenges when it comes to payment of
shows
for shows
regarding balances.
So
sometimes you have to be flexible,
and you have to know
as management,
and you have to know where you collect the money.
Right. And our policy was to collect the money at the hotel prior to us leaving for our event.
That was a major and important consideration. Never collect the money at the venue. Because if you try and collect the money at the venue, they will hold you to ransom. And you have to perform and you don't get the balance of your money. There was also the situation too in which you would sometimes when you collect, the room that you collect in is not the same room you store.
We stay in. Usually we'd have our own internal security aspect. That what we do was basically we had a rooming list that we generate from Kingston. When we land, we would insert the room numbers and everybody would get a room. So if you have somebody from the entourage and ask them which room Ralston or Patrick is, what is on the paper is not that room, because we would wait till everybody go upstairs and then we went back downstairs and change a room, so nobody would know our room.
Right, because those are things, those are tricks in the trade that you have to learn if you are going to survive, because people will rip you off
Yes,
on the
man.
road. I mean, and also there is a question of managing just exuberant fans. And sometimes they too can get artists in trouble.
Right, and
You
I
know-
remember that happened one time with Moses in when we were doing the tour, the U.S. tour, and I think
Oh,
he
it was
was
in Canada.
in Canada,
Yeah.
in Vancouver.
Yes.
Right, when a female.
Yes. So those things do happen, and you have to guard against these overzealous people who are going to come on and want to make contact with the artist. Now we talk about the question of management in the Jamaican context, because a lot of what we do here is different from how people manage artists outside of Jamaica. I mean, most managers would not produce an artist overseas, for example. So they would just be involved in their management. But here there is that.
Right, we have a production house.
So
and a
you're
management
and
component
that
of
might
that
be,
production.
That might be due to the size of the market. In America, you can afford to rely on being just a manager alone, and you make a lot of money. In Jamaica, that might not be so. So you couple the thing, and you do a little management, and you do a little production.
Right, because
so you make some
and
food.
most people don't understand the rationale also with an individual artist. You have some artists who are performance artists, while some artists
Are recording.
is recording artists. The good thing about it that majority of like the Tanto and the Devante, the Beanie Man, Liquor Kirk, they were both recording and performance. And the time of our era of we doing management, the business was more of a recording industry, where record sales was the alma. Now in this era, it is more of a performance.
No, performance.
base.
Well, and the thing is that I've often spoken about the business models and the shift in that, because as you indicated, in years gone by, the focus was about selling records.
Record-driven industry.
Yes, and then touring was used to support the sales of the
records.
recorded products. And then it shifted, and now it's
More
the tour.
performance.
It's a tour that is a dominant part, and now you'd actually, in some instances, the records are given away. I wanna get back to this question of the role of the management, because in a lot of situations, the artists refer to the managers as them boss, and that. And in another situation, the management is considered to be the financier of the artist, which is a little, well, I wouldn't say unusual, but what happens, I think it can be a source of confusion, because many times, you have an artist as a manager, and you invest in that artist, buy him a car, maybe a house, all of that. And then he doesn't expect that you should get back your money. And that maybe it's a loan. It's a loan. And so that is where a lot of disputes come in, because artists believe that, hey, here it is, I created this business in terms of my performance and thing, and you want to get back your money. Talk about that. Let's talk about that.
It is a real serious, as I smile to it, it's a really serious aspect of business, because most of the time the artist doesn't understand or don't want to understand that to keep the career going, there is investment that you have to take upon yourself, basically, and to reinvest in the artist's career.
And that's separate from the
from
commission,
the commission
that you're
basically
taking.
what you're
taking from the artist, yes.
Taking from the artist.
Because some people believe that anything that you put out as the manager, that is something that is a gift, and you know,
and most of these artists believe that you as the management must be spending, and everything that they earn should be their own and their own solely. So it shows sometimes where one don't even want to get involved in the management aspect because it is kind of too troublesome,
unwieldy,
right? You know, and again, as we earlier stated, that we had a crop of artists basically that had some form of flexibility in a way how they looked at things, and when we usually sit. And one of the good thing about it at Shocking Vibe, we had regular meetings.
I want to talk to you about the whole question of using one artist as a locomotive almost to pull the others, because I think Shocking Vibes was pretty good at that in terms of negotiating with promoters and that kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Right, we started the crew situation where we usually use Beanie Man as the as I said, the flag bearer, and then promoters would come to us, basically not a stick up thing that if you don't have the rest you can't have Beanie, you know. But one of the things that we skillfully does was that you call in and you said you want to book Beanie Man for an event. And then we would say to you basically who else is on the event, and then at times a promoter would say, we don't have nobody else, you know, who you have in your crew, and then we would set the promoters. We have Tanto, Devante, we have, and I must say, okay, we'll go with those artists. But one of the things also was that Beanie Man was that type of artist, more flexible in where his teammates, he would carry them onto events.
You mean at his expense?
At his own expense, you know, because I know at times all over you'd have Liquor Kirk and you'll have Silver Cat, basically a part of Beanie Man entourage, and Beanie Man would then ensure that they are paid basically from his earning, you know, and then he would interface or bring them into his set.
How you manage the issue of rivalry among artists? Because in a situation where you have an uneven distribution of popularity and talent, there are going to be some people who feel as if
they are left out.
They are neglected. How did you deal with that?
Again, at Shocking Vibes, what we did was regular meetings, and we sit and had that one-to-one discussions with the artists, and we would show the artists the difference between and ask them questions of a 2-year-old would be understandable. And I said to them, we know this is Beanie Man. Beanie Man style of how he do things is what makes him who he is, you know. And for them, they will have to also be doing that extra effort to their career, you know. But I think what's the main thing was the whole meetings and having that conversation on a regular basis with them.
All right, Patrick, I think we've been joined by Robert Livingston. Robert, are you there? Robert? Anna, I mean, yes? Yeah, Robert? I'm not hearing Robert. Yeah, but of course, Robert Livingston, one of the renowned managers, producers in Jamaican music. He has had enormous international success. Worked with so many artists, in different capacities. Gregory Isaacs, Supercat, Shaggy, so many of them, and then you have people like Jacure and Christopher Martin. So many of them. Robert, are you there? No, we still he still hasn't come up yet. Yeah, because I mean it's we've gone through a big portion of this program, but we'd love to get some of Robert's insights, because he has also been there and he has seen it up close and personal in a big way, and the tricks in trade, because you have to know this business and how to navigate it. We're talking about part of being the manager is your role is that of a conductor. You are the conductor of the orchestra. So that man is playing the horns over there, that man is playing. And you, as the manager, you bring that team together. So the publisher, the songwriters, all of these things, you have to bring them together. And you have to do that also while ensuring that the costs are kept and that the artist gets the best deal. I mean, you would have seen some of the negotiations with us and Virgin and these labels and how brutal they could be.
Yes.
Yes, they were brutal.
Definitely.
Because the record labels are not sympathetic.
No, and they will exploit wherever they can.
Yeah, and they try to, and we push back, and sometimes we pushed back even against the advice of our lawyers, and the people who were handling our affairs internationally, because sometimes, I mean, even with we're talking about record labels.
Yeah, and as I touch record labels, I even remember with
is
Sony.
Robert, 1 second, is Robert here now? Robert?
Hey.
What's up, bro?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, my brother. All right.
I'm having an internet issue.
Yeah, we want to thank you because we know you're having, I mean, this is some serious challenges, but you made sure that, and our heart goes out to you for all that's happening, my brother.
Thanks very much.
Yes. No, Robert, you're a big timer in the management business. You laugh.
Big time. I appear big time in the room.
Well, call it what you want. You have done some spectacular things, and I asked Patrick earlier on if he had any regrets. I'm going to go a little bit more direct though with you because division of labor in your outfit. I mean, you were a producer, you were into songwriting, you were into a lot of the nuts and bolts issues. In retrospect, did you think you did too much?
No. I used to think that, but I don't. After the result, you realize that something you're searching for, no one can give it to you. You got to go get it. Regardless of if it's a song, a show, anything you might need to do to get the result. So sometime when I started in the business, I started doing touring, little roadie on the road touring. Then I get into producing. Then I get into management. Then I realize also I need to have a business, because being a manager, you can develop a brand for an artist, and then you goes up. Are you there?
Yeah, man. But Robert, I mean, I'm saying that you seem to have done a lot. I mean, for example, between me and Patrick, we had a more of a division of labor. You were doing, I mean, a hell of a lot in terms of you were on the road with the artist and you were producing the records and you were doing all of these things. I'm just saying it sounds a lot.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a lot. I had a good team. I had a lot of people working with me internationally and locally. What I have to do, I wasn't on the road all the time. Sometimes I go on the road, make sure everything okay, and I'm leave to do the next thing, to meet marketing people, So I had a good setup where, I have to make sure also my business is making money. Not just getting the progressive for the artist, but you're also making sure your business is running. You can financially set up yourself, because if you don't have that, you're definitely not going to have a long haul with an artist. So for me, I was in making sure every nuts and bolts in my business are together, right. Because once you leave something and not paying attention to it, even the producing, the music, some producer don't know exactly what you're looking for. And so, for me, that was my approach. Not necessarily was a plan, but I had to do what I had to do.
You had to do what you had to do. And as I asked Patrick earlier, do you have any regrets? Are there anything that you would have done differently in terms of how you handled your business, in terms of management, in terms of production, in terms of, I mean, you said you got what you wanted, and you were obviously somebody who wanted to be in control of what you were doing. Would you say, what would you say is, if you have anything you would change? Is there anything you would have changed about how you do business?
Yeah, I could say I could have a better management team and more business structure. I never had a good business structure. I needed more smart business people in my business to handle the business side of things. Of course, I used to hire good lawyers and all of that, but that's the only part of my business that I think I needed more strength.
So internally, you figured that maybe you needed that kind of team with the expertise, with the legal thing and all of that internally. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't expertise, but actually paying attention to certain things that you could capitalize on in better way. There's a lot more things that you could capitalize on each day.
Right, but you were spread thin sometimes. Would you say?
Not necessarily spread thin sometimes. If you have the team with you and you're working for the same goal, you could attack things much better.
Right.
You could go for more things.
Right.
So you find yourself in a position that you said, wow, if you had three of yourself, mm-hmm. You could have done much better with more artists, a much bigger record label, a much more progressive way in doing business, not only for the artists but doing business.
Would you have wanted to manage more artists? Was that or was it too demanding?
I wouldn't say myself managing more artists, but my business, my company, having more managers, more business people around you. Each management company, when you get really powerful, you have more leverage in the business. And most of our managers, and Patrick can tell you that, it's artists, after a while, the artists them stop looking at you. They're looking for bigger things. So if you're not growing to make an empire, and they see that, they're gonna defend. They don't care how long you and them have a relationship. Yeah, they're ready to move. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things that I see that I could have done in a different way. But for me, I was sharing what I was earning on the management side with my team around the world. I have people who was getting percentage from my management fee. I wasn't collecting management from a lot of Shaggy's earning, because I had percentage deals with him in other areas. In publishing, I wasn't getting management. In royalties, I wasn't getting management because I already have a percentage. So what each area
so
that I
and this is important. What Robert is saying is that you don't double dip as manager if you're a producer, right?
No, you don't.
You don't, right?
I don't even collect producers' royalties from Shaggy's project.
Right.
I produce a lot of the hits.
Very. That's a very important consideration.
Sure. Yeah.
You know. But I want us to make a very important point when it comes to management, because a lot of people think that there's a standard kind of rate that managers charge. And one of the things I have noted over the years, that it all depends on who you're managing. So you might, if you have a deal with Michael Jackson, it might be down, your management fees might be down to 5%. But if you have a deal with somebody that is a younger artist who just a try and thing, and you spend some money, you might have to move it up to 30 or 40% to make back your money.
I can respond to that quickly. I think management percentage is a set fee.
Yeah.
What you have to do with business in terms of music, you have to look at how much the artist is earning and what you can bring to the table. If you look at yourself and you say, listen, I can make things happen in another way, but I need more percentage to make it happen in the publishing area or in the recording side. You can pick specific areas that you know you can develop. Shaggy and I had a great relationship in terms of talking about things, brainstorm how we can approach things. I said, Shaggy, I'm going to give up 2 points over there, but it's not going to affect your royalties. It's going to affect my earning. And I give it away just to make something happen. So if the artist said, you know what, I'm doing good, I'm going to bump you up to 30%. But you have to show that business. You have to really show them that what they're getting for that 30% has to be really, because artists don't like to dip into their money, regardless of who they are.
Yeah,
it's value. It's value for money. And
that's it.
We spoke about production and involvement in songwriting and all of that. There's a particular song that jumps to mind, Robert, when you talk about Shaggy, and that one, I remember you and I sitting on a plane, going to New York, and you were playing, you were giving me all the songs that I'm supposed to listen to, and that song was In the Rough, and I'm sure you don't remember which song that was. But I want you to listen to this.
I think I played you 3 songs that day, but one of them sticked out to you.
Yes.
Much better. And because sometimes you and I meet up on flights like maybe 3-4 times. Even Patrick too. We always play songs to each other.
Definitely.
And we always share a thought. But which
is an important thing, Robert, because I don't think people understand how much sharing takes place between people like us in terms of bouncing ideas.
We live very good in the business. Most managers and myself get along. I don't really see a manager out there that, because myself, Specialist Dylan, Patrick, even Jeremy Harding, we all get along. We had never feel like we grudge each other,
are insecure.
Each other, are insecure. Never. If I call Patrick tomorrow morning, 2:00 in the morning, man, get up and ready. Or him call me, or anybody. We always, even you, Clyde. We live like that. The family of us in the business really, I think people should learn and realize how important relationship is and management. My eyes are burning me. Sorry.
All right. Let me just take a break.
It's very important to have a good relationship with people that can even share ideas.
Yeah, because the ideas are very important, right, Patrick?
Yeah, yes, definitely.
You have to bounce them off. I mean,
yeah.
We have a break. As Robert says, there is a lot of collaboration which takes place between the top managers and the top producers in Jamaica, and they share a lot of ideas. Robert, And Patrick can speak to that too. There is the role of the coach in the music business as a manager when an artist's career seems to have taken a downturn and you have to bring them back to that level where their confidence returns and their career takes a particular path. You want to talk about that, Robert, and maybe Patrick can talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, it happened to Shaggy and I in a couple of times. We transformed from one record label to the other. And a downtime when Shaggy we had a deal with Virgin, and after the Bombastic album, we did a third album for Virgin. So we had Pure Pleasure, and then we had Bombastic was a big album, and then what's the other album called? Midnight Lover.
Midnight Lover, yes.
Lover album. That album didn't do anything, didn't do well at all. So he was on a down. Of course, Virgin changed head of the label. Ken Berry went on to run EMI, and we had Paul Conroy who take over the label. Didn't believe in Shaggy, of course. So I'm trying to tell Shaggy, listen, we need to move. We're gonna have to force them to drop you, and we move because I don't want you to get too low before we can pick up another deal. And that's one of the things as a manager you have to realize. You cannot make your artists get too, flat in the business. You have to transform them when they're still hot. They still have an energy. Of course, Virgin dropped Shaggy and signed Beenie Man at that time too.
Mm-hmm.
And Shaggy was really depressed about it. I wouldn't think he was depressed, but he was really, upset about it. I'm like, you know what, Shaggy, don't worry. We're going to do it again. You know what I mean? Just let us keep working at what we plan to do and do it. Of course, it was a big problem transforming him back into that energy that he had. But we did it. We work hard. We stick together. I had big deals offered for myself at the time to leave him and go to manage other artists that was really hot and doing really well. But I said, no, I didn't leave him at all. I stick with him because we had a brother-love relationship, really close. We were really close. And we talk about everything, discuss everything. We was like real family, not only a manager artist business. We were family. So we ride the high and the low together,
So the coaching role is a critical one. Patrick, you want to?
Yeah, and basically, as Robert alluded to, basically, you see, for proper management, if you don't have that trust factor with your artist and the relationship, like, a family relationship, it's kind of little difficult, And I remember also when we signed Tanto and Devante to Sony, and we said to them that after 6 months, if we do not see the progress, then we would enter. That clause was in the contract. They would be automatically revert back to Shocking Vibes, that we could move on. And I think that also had Tanto and Devante kind of got flustered and think that
it was depressing. It was depressing because what had happened is that the project had been taken over from VP, and that project with Everyone Falls in Love. And I think the challenge that we had at the time was that when Sony took the project over, it was well on its way, and there was a lot of burns on the project. So it had been played and stuff had been out there, and so it was a challenge for Sony to really deal with that. And obviously it would be a challenge for the artist and the management to deal with that particular situation.
I could make a comment on that with Tonta and Devante, what I had seen in them. I think they're more ready now as an artist, as a superstar, than they did at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good approach. And what I see with record label, if they don't see the artist had that star quality, that superstar quality, they're gonna pull back. They will always do that. Even myself do that as a manager. I realize that I'm like that, and I'm like the record label. It's a business, and if you're not the driver yourself as the artist, Shaggy was not the best talented guy. Tonto, Beanie Man, and all of the artists and that make it. Well, Shaggy was one of the artists that had a low cut of feel, but his work ethic and then his stars quality was there. That's why he made it, not because of talent, but because of song. Convincing. You have to make sure your promotion guy, when you walk into that room, you sell yourself. They believe in you. They want to go get it. Don't care what kind of genre you have. So,
See, you made a point, Robert.
Yes.
I want to get a little bit of elaboration on it, because you're talking about the importance of not necessarily talent, but star power.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I wanted to elaborate on that, because you're saying that you can have artists with enormous talent and they don't necessarily make it.
Star.
I mean, you in point of fact referred to Tonto, Metro, and Devontae and said they didn't have that star power at the time.
They had it, but it wasn't shown. You see what I'm saying? Because you got to remember, they're also being shadowed by another star, and they're thinking about that. They're not thinking how hard they have to get in themselves, in driving themselves to be. It happened in our camp with Brian and Tony Gold, Rick Rock, and Ray Vaughan, and it's happened. And, you know, so as a person, as a manager, you're looking for the artist that's driving more. You follow that one. They pull you. You can't do it. You can't do no better as a businessman. Now, I see Tonto and Devante as an artist that still has one of the biggest recurrent songs at radio in America. The other day when I put them on the best on Taste of Sunfest, a lot of the PDs call me and say, "Oh my God, I never seen these guys. I never know what they look like." And I love these guys. But they never, at the time when they were out, those same PDs and disc jockeys and they never give them the shot that they deserve, even when management are push. So the label, not seeing that energy, they're ready to just not even go at it. So artists themselves have to drive.
No, you speak about the label and the relationship between management and the labels. I think Patrick and I had spoken earlier about that.
Yeah.
But that is something that is deserving of almost a full program, because relationships with the people in the record companies is critical to the success of the artist. And in many instances, an artist will swim or sink based on the people who are handling his career in the label. And also, it is important that the management knows what it is doing, because it is the one which will have to advise these people and tell them what they're doing wrong and what they're not doing wrong. It's very important. And in many instances, the labels will disagree with the management, because we had that situation. We had major fights with Virgin America. Major fights.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think Virgin America, when Virgin opened the office in New York, they had a bigger urban department. Now you have 2 other new labels that they signed. They were doing a lot. And you have a lot of A&R on board who's trying to make a career for themselves also, not necessary for artists, to see how many stars they can sign, how much their bonus can be. So there's a lot of things happening at Virgin America. Same thing at Sony, same thing at everywhere. Even when we went to MCA record, what helped me when I went to MCA with Shaggy, I know a lot of people there because I used to go there every day. Back in the time when Bobby Brown was on the label, Heavy D and I was close. I used to go to MCA all the time. I know Jay, I know Bunny Gola, I know Deb Peterson. I know a few people that was ready to take a shot for me. All I needed to get, it was a momentum. And I keep telling Shaggy I want to tell you a little story quickly. Shaggy wanted to sign to Warner.
And
because we had a bidding war. And I said, Shaggy, if we go to Warner, the promotion person at Warner don't like you. The product manager is not going to be in you. You're going to go over there and suffer. And I can't drive a ship that's not sailing. I can't. So we did a vote out of the team, and I was the only one said MCA. And Shaggy took and said, yo, I'm going to roll with you. You say MCA? Okay. You know what you're going to do? I said, once we get a record rolling over MCA, the machine will jump in. I know that for a fact. And that's what happened. Took us a minute, but we got it. And they were all over him because, you know what? They believe, the people them there believe in me and what I would do to make it happen. And I'm going to get it. So a lot of artists and managers didn't have their team, the label support. The genre was a problem because, you know, they treat the genre as this a seasonal thing. Oh, it's reggae's in now. Okay, let's sign two reggae artists. Oh, next. Oh, they're not in anymore. You know, it's not the season for dancehall or reggae artists. It was like that. So it was really difficult for a lot of us to survive in that tag and war business that the label do create sometimes. And it's not their fault. It just depends on the individual. Product manager, as we go back to what Patrick was saying and you were saying, product manager is very important at a label. If you don't have the right product manager or the head of marketing and promotion behind your artist, you can suffer there. Easy.
I want to end this program with both you and Patrick about managing success, because people might think that managing successful artists and managing acts that have been able to reach certain heights is an easy thing. And sometimes things can change dramatically with success. I want both of you to kind of sum up that for me and before we leave. We have a few minutes left. You want to go, Patrick, or Robert?
Yeah,
you want to go first?
No, Patrick. Let Patrick go first.
What I would say, basically, none of the artists that Shocking Vibes had was that of big names. We nurtured them and we took them to the heights of where we could. But one of the key things, and I said this, is that the nowadays artists, basically, for you to reach that stardom and the status, then you have to believe in your career and you have to believe in management and trust. Because as I always said, I usually equate that managers is not a house master. And what I see taking place now in the music business is more of a house master where you draw less.
It means like a gambling house.
A gambling house that you just draw less from the artist. You don't even know how to part the artist's career.
Yes.
And you just basically turn up at a show and you on the stage with the artist. You don't know how to because even with Shocking Vibes, our artists had to go to vice training.
Yes,
so basically.
I remember Tonto Metro and Devante when they started.
Being as bad as Beenie Man think he was, he had to go to do vice training.
Yeah, but
so
the question is, does it become more difficult where the artist might start saying, well, look, I'm so successful, I really don't need to be listening to you and you lecturing me. Is that something that
would be the most time that's the downfall of the artist, because you have to listen to someone.
Yeah, Robert, what's your views?
I mean, God, it's so much. Based on the success for on the manager side and the artist side, each time an artist get more power and they look at themselves getting successful, there's certain things they listen to and certain things they're not going to listen to anymore. So if you're in the beginning of their career, if you don't get a few things in, like Shaggy and I used to talk about, his dressing, his delivery, his whole mannerism, how he deal with people that promotes him, how the respect he has for them, and of course going back to the how good he is on his performance vocally. Now, what was basically a blessing for us, we had two good vocalists who joined the team, Brian and Tony Gold, and then the musician them to keep grooming him, training him to make sure he stays in tune and keep his, his really delivery going good. It's very hard sometimes to tell the artists that they need to do certain things, but you find a way how to let them, introduce it to them. I was really good at that with Shaggy because he was very touchy and telling him.
And you're dealing with stars, and
Yes.
so you have to have the capacity to be able to tell the artist what the problem is and what you mean without giving them the impression that you're talking down to them, or that you figure that you know it all. Because when they're that successful, there is that challenge to say, well, we did it, so what's up?
Yeah. I mean, I remember we were where we were at a TV. I think it was a TV show we did in England, and I normally watch every TV show before Shaggy do a show. I watched the previous 6 shows of any television that we're gonna do, and I said to him that we cannot wear blue. I know they're going to tell us that we can wear blue tomorrow, so let us prepare ourselves. As we get up in the morning, that was the phone call that comes in. This is the colors that we can wear. And he said, oh, man, I don't want to change my outfit because this one is the one that I really like. And I'm like, dude, you got to remember, we are getting these people to promote you. You're not promoting them. They're not promoting.
So a manager has to be in a position of strength. He can't be a weakling. I mean, you can't be a bully, but you can't be a weakling.
No, definitely not.
I want to thank you both, gentlemen. 2 iconic figures in Jamaican music, Patrick Roberts and Robert Livingston, talking about the business of management. Musically speaking, Clyde Mckenzie here with you, Danelia Doyle, and there was Kevin, and my 9/10, and Jack Scorpio is coming in right now. So let's prepare for him because he always has a musical treat. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here and sharing your experience and your knowledge. Thank you.